Today we explore 7 bizarre, terrifying, and completely true historical events that sound 100% fictional. And number 1 is a documented military battle where the dead literally rose up to fight the living. Number 7. The Great Emu War. In 1932, the Australian government officially declared a military war against a flock of flightless birds. After World War I, farmers in Western Australia were facing a massive apocalyptic crisis. 20,000 giant emus were destroying their crops, plunging the entire region into starvation. So the military was called in, armed with heavy machine guns and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. It sounded like an incredibly easy victory for advanced human technology. But the military quickly realized they were fighting a highly coordinated, terrifyingly fast enemy. The birds scattered into small tactical units, making the machine guns completely useless. They easily outran the military trucks, dodging the bullets like they were inside the Matrix. After weeks of humiliating defeat and wasting thousands of bullets, the military commander officially surrendered. The emus literally won the war, forcing the human army to retreat in shame. It is the only time in modern history a human military lost an official war to a bird. Number 6. The Great Molasses Flood. If I told you a major American city was destroyed by a slow-moving baking ingredient, you would laugh. But on January 15, 1919, the streets of Boston became a literal horror movie. A massive, 5-story tall metal storage tank suddenly burst wide open without any warning. It released 2.3 million gallons of thick, boiling hot molasses into the crowded city streets. You might think syrup is slow, but this deadly wave was 25 feet high and moving at 35 miles per hour. It possessed enough raw kinetic energy to snap steel girders and completely crush buildings into splinters. People and horses were instantly trapped in the thick, sticky tsunami, completely unable to breathe or swim. The harder they struggled to escape, the deeper they sank into the dark brown void. It took weeks to clean the streets with salt water, and the city harbor ran brown until summer. To this day, on hot summer afternoons, some residents swear the streets still smell like sweet syrup. It proves that even the most harmless things can become apocalyptic weapons if the physics are right. Number 5. The Cadaver Synod. In the year 897, the Vatican held one of the most terrifying and bizarre legal trials in human history. Pope Stephen VI hated his predecessor, Pope Formosus, with such intense fury that he wanted him put on trial. There was only one massive problem. Pope Formosus had already been dead for 7 months. But Stephen didn't care about the laws of biology or basic sanity. He ordered the rotting corpse to be dug up from its grave and dragged into the courtroom. They dressed the dead body in full glittering papal robes and propped it up on a golden throne. For hours, the living pope screamed accusations at the silent, decaying skeleton in front of a horrified audience. They even appointed a terrified 18-year-old boy to stand behind the dead body and speak on its behalf. Unsurprisingly, the corpse was found guilty of all charges by the living judges. They chopped off 3 of its fingers, stripped it, and threw it into the Tiber River. It is a chilling reminder of how absolute power can drive humans into absolute theatrical madness. Number 4. The Year Without a Summer. In the year 1816, the entire planet Earth seemed to completely forget how the seasons worked. Across Europe and North America, spring never arrived and the sky turned a dark, sickly yellow. In the middle of June, massive blizzards buried cities in deep snow and rivers froze completely solid. Crops failed globally, causing massive famines, food riots, and the rapid spread of deadly diseases. People genuinely believed that the sun was dying and the apocalypse had officially begun. But the cause was completely invisible to the victims freezing in the dark. A year earlier, Mount Tambora in Indonesia had erupted in the largest volcanic explosion in recorded history. It pumped millions of tons of sulfur dust into the stratosphere, wrapping the Earth in a global cooling blanket. Trapped indoors by the endless freezing gloom in Switzerland, a young Mary Shelley had a nightmare. Because of this apocalyptic weather, she sat by the fire and wrote the terrifying novel Frankenstein. A volcano on the exact opposite side of the planet literally created the modern horror genre. Number 3. The Dancing Plague of 1518. In July 1518, a woman named Frau Trophia stepped into a street in Strasbourg and simply started dancing. There was no music playing, no celebration happening, and absolutely no logical reason for her to move. But she couldn't stop her body. She danced violently for almost a week straight until she collapsed from exhaustion. Then, the nightmare began to spread like a highly contagious psychological virus. Within a month, over 400 people had joined her in the streets, moving in a massive, uncontrollable trance. Their feet were bleeding, their bones were fracturing, but their brains literally refused to let them stop. The local government thought the cure was simply more dancing, so they hired musicians to play music. This was a fatal mistake, pushing the exhausted victims to move even harder. Dozens of people literally danced until their hearts exploded, dying right there on the cobblestones. Modern scientists suspect it was a case of mass psychogenic illness caused by extreme stress and starvation. But the image of 400 people silently dancing themselves to death remains one of history's darkest mysteries. Number 2. The sandwich that started a world war. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in 1914 is the exact spark that ignited World War I. But the actual sequence of events is so absurd it feels like a time traveler was manipulating reality. A group of assassins threw a bomb at the Archduke's car, but they completely missed their target. The Archduke survived, and the terrified assassins scattered into the city thinking they had totally failed. One of the assassins, Gavrilo Princip, gave up his mission and walked into a random cafe to buy a sandwich. Meanwhile, the Archduke decided to visit the hospital to see the people injured by the initial bomb. But his driver took a wrong turn down a random, narrow street, and the car's engine completely stalled. Out of all the streets in the entire city, the car stalled directly in front of the exact cafe where Princip was eating. The assassin looked up from his sandwich, pulled out his gun, and fired 2 shots. Those 2 bullets killed the Archduke, triggering a global war that killed over 20 million people. A wrong turn and a cheap sandwich completely rewrote the history of the modern world. Number 1. The Attack of the Dead Men. In 1915, during World War I, the German army surrounded the Russian-held Osijek fortress. Realizing they couldn't break the massive walls, the Germans released a massive cloud of deadly chlorine gas. The Russian soldiers inside had absolutely no gas masks, using only wet rags to cover their faces. The green gas turned the moisture in their lungs into hydrochloric acid, slowly dissolving them from the inside out. The German soldiers confidently marched towards the fortress, expecting to find nothing but a pile of corpses. But as they approached the ruins, a horrifying sight emerged from the thick green fog. About 100 Russian soldiers charged out of the fortress, their faces wrapped in bloody, dirty rags. They were literally coughing up pieces of their own lungs, covered in severe chemical burns, looking like actual zombies. Even though they were already dying, they raised their rifles and screamed a terrifying, gargling battle cry. The sight of these melting, blood-soaked dead men charging at them completely broke the German army's sanity. Thousands of elite German soldiers dropped their weapons and ran away in absolute screaming terror. They fled so fast they actually trampled each other in their desperate attempt to escape the undead. It remains the only battle in history won by an army of men who were technically already dead.